Today, I will show you how easily Ukrainian forces destroy numerous Russian armored vehicles. So let's begin. This bold attack by Russian forces once again ended in failure. Ahead of the tank column, a mine-clearing tank is advancing. The demining system fails to protect the tank, and it is detonated on a Ukrainian mine. Shortly after, 2 more Russian tanks are blown up on mines. The 4th tank attempted to break through, but also detonated on a mine. Thus, in just a few minutes, the Russian attack was completely thwarted. This time, Ukrainians didn't even need to use drones. In this video, you see the most modern Russian tank T-90 break through with a clumsy and useless protective structure above the tank turret. The tank is on a mission, but a $500 Ukrainian drone easily disables the expensive Russian tank, which costs $4 million. After the drone hits, the crew panicked and the tank becomes uncontrollable. The crew abandoned their tank, leaving it in the field. Now it can be easily destroyed by another FPV drone. In this video, we already see how the same tank was seriously damaged and disabled. Another Russian tank was firing at Ukrainian positions, but literally a second later, an anti-tank Tau missile hit it, causing the Russian tank to catch fire. The Tau missile easily destroys any Russian tank. Russian infantry attempting to attack again encountered the high effectiveness of Ukrainian FPV drones. In this attack, the Russians lost all of their armored personnel carriers. Every single one of them. This abandoned Russian APC is well protected, and it is filled with ammunition. Struck by a Ukrainian FPV drone, the winter jackets of Russian soldiers left on the roof of the APC caught fire. This led to the ignition of the entire armored vehicle, which in turn resulted in the detonation of the ammunition. The armored vehicle burned long and bright, warming the hearts of Ukrainian soldiers. Another abandoned Russian armored vehicle on the battlefield was also packed with ammunition. The Ukrainian FPV drone easily turned the target into a large fireball. Now, only a large crater remains at the site of the Russian APC. Another APC with ammunition inside. Ukrainian drone operators really enjoyed hitting such targets. Take a look at what's left of the armored personnel carrier. Nothing but torn pieces of metal. Yet another abandoned APC caught fire after the arrival of a Ukrainian drone. Notice how skillfully the drone flew inside the armored vehicle. After the explosion, the Russian armored vehicle burned brightly for a long time. Let's give a thumbs up to the Ukrainian drone operators. They certainly deserve it. Thanks to FPV drones, the Russians have no chance of advancing. The drone operator locates an abandoned Russian tank on the battlefield and targets it. One drone was enough to send the tank to hell. However, the operator of this drone is even luckier. He managed to direct the drone to the weak point of Russian tanks, the very base of the tank turret. The result was spectacular. Near the town of Avdiivka, Russians are using a unique tank support combat vehicle, the Terminator APC. This vehicle has good dynamic protection, and it's not easy to destroy. Ukrainians deploy several FPV drones to hit the target from different sides. But the Russian Terminator survives and hides under a concrete bridge. But is it possible to hide from a Ukrainian drone? The operator easily maneuvers and reaches the target under the bridge. As a result, the Terminator APC is destroyed. Ukrainian scouts found an abandoned Russian tank and wanted to set it on fire with grenades. But instead of the tank, some unknown substance nearby caught fire and began to burn like a firework. If you have any idea of what is this, please write in the comments. Russians continued to attack Ukrainian positions around the city of Avdiivka, but without success. They suffer significant losses, but still persist. All roads and fields around are littered with broken Russian military equipment, reminding us of the senselessness of this Putin's war. No matter how much armor Putin sends to the front, all of it will be destroyed by Ukrainian defenders. A Russian military truck revealed the location of anti-tank mines. The storage was hit by a HIMARS missile. The truck was also destroyed by the blast wave. Nearby, an APC with an ATGM installation was discovered. There are probably many projectiles inside. A Ukrainian FPV drone strikes this Russian scrap metal. In this video, you see another column of attacking Russian forces. The Ukrainians destroyed the entire column. All tanks without exception. Later, the Russians filmed on the same road where the column of their armored vehicles was destroyed, and we can see the losses they suffered. Russian tanks always burn well. This Russian T-80 tank was hit by a Ukrainian FPV drone. Upon impact, it exploded into small pieces. On the way to Avdiivka, the Russians are losing a lot of their equipment even before reaching the battlefield. The road is strewn with destroyed tanks and APCs, making it practically impossible to pass unnoticed. This Russian APC is no exception. For those who manage to get past this road, defeat awaits on the battlefield, as happens to this armored vehicle. It was hit by an FPV drone and later exploded. 2 more Russian APCs with infantry were on a mission. The first armored vehicle was hit by a Javelin missile, while the crew of the second APC was figuring out what to do. The Ukrainians struck them with an FPV drone. Another Russian APC was hit and didn't make it to the battlefield. Ukrainian soldiers have learned to use the Bradley very effectively in counterattacks, but more and more often, they refuse to use tanks of Russian origin, and here's why. Watch this video. During a counterattack, a Ukrainian T-72 tank, which is a tank of Russian origin, is blown up on a Russian mine along with ammunition. You can understand for yourself what happened to the crew of this tank. Western tanks like Leopard, Challenger, or Abrams may not be perfect and also have vulnerabilities, but at least they guarantee the lives of their crews. Look at how skillfully Ukrainian soldiers using Javelin missiles destroyed an advancing column of Russian armored vehicles. 3 out of 4 APCs were hit. All infantry attacks were repelled, so Russians began using artillery, particularly the BM-21 Grad. Look! This is a Russian Su-25 aircraft, and this is a Russian Grad multiple rocket launcher firing Russian rockets. There are only a few meters between the fighter and the missile. If the plane had flown a fraction of a second faster, it would have been shot down. The Russian Grad MLRS launches a rocket strike against Ukrainian targets, but was destroyed by a HIMARS missile. Take a look at how it looks from a distance. The explosion was so powerful that nothing remained of the Russian MLRS except for a crater in the ground. This is archival footage from September of last year. It shows another BM-21 Grad MLRS explosion along with its ammunition. Ukrainian reconnaissance found a large depot with rocket ammunition. With the help of an FPV drone, the depot was hit and exploded a few minutes later. Reconnaissance also discovered a pile of Russian anti-tank mines. It remains a mystery why the Russians leave their mines exposed, scattered on the ground and without cover. But this doesn't stop Ukrainian drones from turning Russian mines into a fiery inferno. Numerous discovered Russian mines also take off into the air. The American MLRS HIMARS continues to work successfully on the front lines, destroying many Russian artillery systems daily. In collaboration with reconnaissance, the self-propelled howitzer 2S5 was destroyed. And here's a highly valuable Russian weapon, the Buk surface-to-air missile system. Just one HIMARS missile turns it into a New Year's fireworks show. Having such a moment, I congratulate you to the arrival of 2024. This is the Russian OSA anti-aircraft missile system. The Russians barely had time to hide between the trees before being hit by a HIMARS missile. Here, the Russians concealed the self-propelled howitzer 2S-19. But is it possible to hide from Ukrainian reconnaissance? Of course not. The howitzer was also hit by a HIMARS missile and destroyed by fire. At night, Russians dared to use the TOS-1 Buratino MLRS, which fires thermobaric projectiles. This weapon has a range of only 6 kilometers. Russians need to get as close as possible to Ukrainian positions, but reconnaissance detected the MLRS, and with the help of a HIMARS missile, the target was destroyed. This is what the destruction of TOS-1 Buratino looks like during the day. And like this. Another TOS-1 Buratino was also destroyed at night. FPV drones have practically replaced 122mm and 155mm artillery. That's why they are so important, and their production needs to be increased. Unlike conventional artillery, drones have incredible maneuverability and precision. In this example, see how it works. Ukrainians tried to hit a Russian tank with conventional artillery shells, but they fall short without damaging the tank. However, a few seconds later, the tank was hit by an FPV drone, forcing the Russians to abandon the tank and hide among the trees. Meanwhile, Ukrainian soldiers shell them with rocket projectiles, launching them from a civil BMW car. Friends, thank you for watching my channel. Leave your mark by liking this video. I promise you that a new video will be released on our channel soon.